Hello gamers, it's Eleanor Does Cosplay and I'm joining you today as Maria from Silent Hill 2 because we need to talk about Return to Silent Hill. I went to see this film about 2 days after it came out in cinemas, and while I'm glad I went to see it, I can't say I'm that glad about the film. So join me today for a deep dive into Return to Silent Hill. I've got the 2 cams set up today also. Hi. It's gonna get spicy. I wrote all my notes down by hand because I needed to get them down as quickly as possible. This video is gonna have incredible spoilers for both the game and the film, so if you plan on playing it or watching it, maybe just skip this video for now. There are themes of sexual abuse, trauma, and murder in this video, so if you're not comfy with that, I would not recommend it. It's gonna be the whole way through. Let's go. Return to Silent Hill is the story of Silent Hill 2. Well, if you don't know what happens in the game, let me give you a really quick plot recap so you're up to speed. I'm gonna use the notes for this one. James Sunderland wakes up in Silent Hill. He meets Angela, walks around a bit, fights some monsters. He meets Eddie and Laura. He's looking for his wife. Keep this in mind. We go around some apartments, gather some weapons, we heal, we fight more monsters. James puts his hands in many holes. We go to the park, we meet Maria. Maria and James pansy about a hospital for a bit. Pyramid Head kills Maria, but not for long. James learns the truth about himself, and in the true ending, he ends up driving his car into a lake with his dead wife by his side. Isn't that nice? It's just lovely, isn't it? So with the basic plot in mind, let's talk about Return to Silent Hill. I've split this video into sections to make it a little bit easier to navigate. So we'll go through characters first, then plot, then filmography, and reception at the very end. So if you're only interested in one of those things, skip to that point. I'm having way too much fun with the 2 cameras, it's actually so crazy. First, let's delve into characters, and we have to start with our guy, James Sunderland. Now in Silent Hill 2, James is this lowly, nervous, weedy, confused little man. And at the beginning of the game, you're both as confused as each other as to why he's in Silent Hill. I mean, this town is full of monsters. As the game progresses, James becomes more self-aware of his mistake, often having the moral higher ground over the other characters. When he realizes what he's done, he plunges so deeply into a depression that he kills himself in a lake. The very first impression we get from the film James is he is a blunt-smoking, car-whipping painter, and a famous one at that. I think in the game it's alluded that he might be like an office worker or something like normal. Film James has this flirty, cool guy attitude, and he's just totally laid back. This guy is like the aura king of Silent Hill. We get an insight into James and Mary's relationship, seemingly a short one because they use the same footage over and over again. We know that he's going through some kind of trauma based on the fact that he's currently in therapy, which we found out pretty early on in the film. Oh yeah, by the way, James is also like a martial arts expert, but only when he's drunk and in a bar fight, which we also learn quite early on. This James is portrayed as quite the sleazebag, and for those who haven't played the film, he probably just comes across as some sad, angry guy who's been through some pretty heavy stuff. Which he has. James drives to Silent Hill, and he's pretty confused, and you would be if you'd lived there for a while. He kind of stumbles into the things he needs. He runs into this dude who we can assume is human, but what relevance does it have to James if this is his freaky trauma nightmare world? We have a very speedy encounter with Angela, who we'll talk about shortly, where James once again comes across as just a bit of a dick. He doesn't really listen to Angela's advice or give her much context as to why he's there either, and he just kind of leaves her there. James somehow just ends up exactly where he needs to be. No puzzles, no keys, just a TV-induced flashback where he calls his therapist. Like, the iPhone making it to Silent Hill is crazy, right? The flashbacks begin, but I'll talk more about that when we go through Mary. We have a very nothing interaction with Eddie, Laura, and the Pyramid Head in the same 5 minutes. James has this interaction with a freaky spider version of Mary. It was at this point in the cinema, I just lost it. I couldn't hold it in anymore. But throughout all of this, James doesn't seem afraid. He's just confused. The amount of times he just looks around like, it's uncountable. Like, are you scared? Now, if we're basing this on the time loop theory that James is living the same thing over and over again, like purgatory, this might make sense why he's not having like genuine reactions of fear. But based on everything else, I believe this is his first time back in Silent Hill. I don't know. James has this hilarious interaction with Pyramid Head when he's found hiding, where both of them just start tweaking out because the nightmare is unnightmaring, and they both can't do it. In the game, James just kind of wanders around, slowly discovering more things about himself, and it's almost as if the player realizes before James what he's actually done. In the film, James has these big, crazy flashback freakouts, which removes that kind of ignorance of guilt. He knows what he did. James is aware that he's killed Mary, and he knows why he's suffering. James has another very nothing interaction with a very suicidal Angela, where he just like leaves her in a room with a knife by herself. A knife that has quite heavy significance in the game as well. When James meets Maria, he stares holes through her head while she talks at him for a minute, and then they both leave the weird park maze together. More flashback stuff where James stalks his girlfriend and screams through some bars. Awesome! James continues to only really gaff about himself as he has pretty fatally wounded Maria, but he's too busy murking off some crumbly nurses, once again showing off those incredible martial arts skills from earlier. He basically leaves Maria to die, doesn't speak a word to her, has another freaky migraine in front of Laura, who is evil for some reason. Why did that zoom in? Vecna Mary sends James straight back to real life hospital, where a nurse with a full beat and his therapist await him and tell him that Mary is dead. Oh no, I never would have seen that coming. Real life James knows this, and he's just mentally denying it. That's why he's in therapy. And then we get the flashback to end all flashbacks. Oh my God. He confronts Maria about all the strange cult stuff, demands that she leaves with him, threatens her, and then leaves anyway, despite her giving very good reason for him to just not be the worst guy ever. The Moth Gang rock up, and now we're back in Silent Hill, but this time, James is in evil mode. Ooh. Ooh. He's constantly giving the camera the Kubrick stare, and it makes it one of the funniest shots of him and Maria. It goes back and forth, and she's like, James, please, and he's just like, he's not smiling, well, he is low-key. He's like, he's got a little smirk on him, he's like, I can't do it. I can't do it justice. I can't do it. Possibly my favorite part of the movie was when James summoned Pyramid Head and had Maria killed in the most violent way possible. Him just saying, goodbye, Maria, just actually sent me silly. And if our silly monkey brains hadn't already figured out that James is Pyramid Head, we get another shot through that helmet just in case. Everything is on fire now for literally no reason. Angela has nothing to do with it. James has a catch up with Angela and ends up fighting Abstract Daddy. I kid you not, he touches this thing's face and he pulls off the "and for my next trick," and it just disappears in a puff of smoke. Like, sorry? James don't gaff. He just wants to chase fake Mary. Or is it Maria? We don't know. Also, why is everything on fire? Then the reveal. Dear God. In our final flashback, we reveal why James is being so tortured in Silent Hill. So, in the game, Mary becomes terminally ill with a disease that isn't revealed or explained, but we can assume it's an existing illness. James kills Mary out of a combination of dislike and pity. Either way, he's a guilty man, and he suffers this guilt through Silent Hill. In the film, Mary isn't sick. She's been gulping down, willingly, this poison her father's been giving her since childhood, and it's finally taken its effect. She explains to James that it's all her fault and literally begs James to kill her. What the hell? She literally lifts the towel up to her own face to start the job. The whole reason for Silent Hill existing in the first place is because of James's guilt. He didn't do anything wrong. Then James is willingly absorbed by Vecna Mary. I don't want to talk about it. And this is instead of killing her in this epic final boss battle, like, I missed that so bad. He smacks her in the passenger seat of his car and drives them both into Toluca Lake. Sure, I don't mind that. What I do mind is James waking back up, back in time to when he met Mary, and instead of thinking, oh, she's trying to escape her weird cult family, I'll help, his selfish ass decides, no, I think we'll do it all again. Huh? He has learned nothing. In some endings of the game, you can truly tell that James is feeling that guilt and remorse of killing Mary, and he realizes how much he deserved that torture. In the film, he's just like, yeah, all right, we'll go again. It's almost as like he does get Mary back, which is not the point. James Sunderland is one of the best written game protagonists, especially in the horror genre. And while yeah, the games is a lot of walking around, solving puzzles, looking at things, the whole point is to navigate James's guilt alongside him. It isn't explicitly explained, which is what gives the game its charm. He's a pretty awful dude, he's a bad husband, and he's a guilty criminal. But you take one look at him and you're like, he wouldn't do that. You know? You look at Film James, who's freaking out every 5 minutes, not talking to other characters like a normal person, and kills basically a carbon copy of his girlfriend in the most painful and violent way possible. You might think, yeah, he probably did it. Instead of denying it for so long, it feels like Film James already knew what he'd done when he went to Silent Hill, and then by the end of the film, he just leaned into it and he went like crazy killer mode. Both versions of James are flawed men. One is your confused average Joe, and the other one is painted as more of a hero with his own more important trauma. And low-key, he isn't even the one to blame, so like, why does he go crazy killer mode at the end? It's safe to say that I don't think his character was portrayed well. Let's move on to his tragic counterpart, Mary. I mean, Mary Angela Laura Crane. In Silent Hill 2, we don't learn much about Mary. All we know is that she's got this terminal illness, she's James's wife, and she died 3 years ago. Woo! And this is the entire reason James goes to Silent Hill in the first place. James has a letter from Mary, a very important letter, inviting him to go to their special place. The letter in the film reads, James, so much time has passed. I know that. But I'm asking you, I'm begging you, to please come back to our place. Something's happened. Please, James, I need you. Love, Mary. In the game, James and Mary only holiday in Silent Hill, so when James goes back, he is obviously impacted by how different it looks. Film James and Mary actually lived in Silent Hill together. Mary lived there her whole life. And both characters have experienced so much trauma there already that going back isn't much different for James. It's not a special place. Let's address the cult. Obviously, Silent Hill 2006 and Silent Hill Revelations both had very culty aspects to them, as did the games that they're based on. But Silent Hill doesn't. So tell me why I'm watching Mary get ripped apart by freaky neighbors and family in a sewer? Huh? Firstly, if Mary is out here getting her blood drank and ripped apart by these cult people, how is she like absolutely fine immediately afterwards? Secondly, if at the beginning of the film she was so intent on escaping this life and getting out of Silent Hill, why was she so chill about going back with James and even having him move in there with her? And also, what was that tape about in the hospital that Maria found that talked about Mary having these crazy wounds and all that stuff? Like, when we see her at the end of the film, she's alright. Well, she's not okay, but you know. We get a few flashbacks to Mary being strange before James catches on and eventually leaves her despite her asking for help. By the time James decides he wants to help, Mary is bedbound ill, she cannot walk. When James finally visits her at the hospital, she basically explains everything he'd already figured out and then begs him to kill her. I sounded really northern then, didn't I? Begs him to kill her. She literally puts the towel over her face and starts the process for him, and James just kind of screams his poorly applied beard off the whole time. A moth lands next to the bed, giving James some strange moth trauma. I guess this makes sense because if they'd gone off the game, a bat landing next to the bed would have been quite scary. In Silent Hill 2, Mary isn't brought up much because at the end of the day, it's James's story, and we learn alongside James about Mary as we go. We know about as much as him. We know how important Mary is to James, because he wouldn't be there looking for her if she wasn't. But we also know that something isn't quite right. We don't need flashbacks and cults and multiple characters to explain her story, because at the end of the day, it's James's story. We don't get to hear Mary's story until we have to listen to her heartbreaking, painful words at the end of the game. The fact that they didn't include Mary's letter at all just absolutely breaks my soul completely. I can't. It's one of the most memorable, poetic pieces of game writing ever, and it explains what we need to know about Mary's story without directly influencing James's story while you're playing. Did we need scary Vecna Moth Mary and Spider Mary and all those flashbacks? No, we didn't. We can't cover Mary without talking about the other Marys now, can we? Let's talk about Angela and Laura. At this point, we all know about Mary, Angela, Laura Crane. The entire cinema lost their minds when this happened out of genuine disbelief. It was just, oh my God. I can't even fathom the words. So basically what they're saying is Angela and Laura are also Mary, just at different parts of her life. Yeah, you heard me. So it's saying Mary wasn't only used as a cult representative, she was also being sexually abused by her father at about 17, which is Angela's canon age. And I'm really not sure how Laura fits into this at all. Angela in Silent Hill 2 acts as a kind of sense of relatability for James. Without really saying much to each other, they both know they're there for the same reason. Angela more so than James. Angela's guilt comes from killing her father after years and years of sexual abuse, and she processes this alongside James's storyline. The two don't cross, ever. Yeah, I guess James did technically save Angela from Abstract Daddy, but it's Angela's speech at the end of the game that makes James realise the Mary he's been looking for isn't really there. Angela is such a powerful character and a great story motivator for James. It just shows how deep in denial James is. Seeing her so just loosely connected to another character makes me feel like they're erasing her trauma, and her influence on James just isn't the same. In the game, she is a warning sign, she's a storyteller, and a beacon that James can relate to. It feels like they put her in the film because they felt like they had to, and it's heartbreaking to see such an incredible character done so wrong. Laura! In Return to Silent Hill, they could have not featured Laura at all, and the film wouldn't have changed even slightly. In Silent Hill 2, Laura is a resident of Silent Hill. She doesn't see all the monsters, she just lives there. She was friends with Mary while she was in the hospital, and she guards a really important letter towards the end of the game. James is often chasing her, thinking he'll find out something new about his situation. In the game, Laura is this cocky, silly little girl that taunts James on and chases him around, as kids often do. And when James admits that he's killed Mary to her, she is rightfully devastated. She hits him and runs away. So tell me why in the film Laura is this Tim Burton inspired little Victorian child that deliberately puts James in dangerous situations seemingly for fun whilst creeping around Silent Hill for no real reason? She's not hiding behind walls and jumping out at James calling him a fart face. Also, why can't she see Pyramid Head? Her childhood whimsy and intrigue is gone as she becomes yet another traumatized character used to represent Mary, who, I'll say again, isn't in the game that much. In the game, Laura grounds James, giving him hope that Mary is still alive out there. In the film, she leads him on, stares at him, and then runs away. Another character with an important role just used as more background for another character who shouldn't really have been a main character. We're gonna talk about Eddie next. There's not much to say about Eddie, considering he was in the film for about 2 seconds. I got really excited when I saw him because I thought it was a really good casting, and I was excited to see all his character quirks and stuff come out. Alas. In Silent Hill 2, Eddie interacts with James multiple times, as does Angela. The difference between these two is that Eddie feels no guilt or remorse for what he did. Basically, his dad would bully him for his lifestyle choices, and it got so much that he decided to shoot him. Eddie is a chill guy. He doesn't really care much that he's in Silent Hill, which prompts amazing lines from the game such as,
"This town is full of monsters. How can you sit there and eat pizza?"
I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. When Eddie finally turns and reveals his trauma, he attacks James, forcing James to kill him. This is poignant because this is the first time we ever see James kill another human. And James is just as shocked as we are. This is before we know that James killed Mary. We might have an idea, but we're not 100% sure. Fighting Eddie is a turning point for James, and the player will start to judge James's character a little more closely. In the film, Eddie is stumbled upon throwing up in some apartments, which is where you meet him in the game. Eddie tells James that he just likes living in Silent Hill despite being incredibly diseased, gross, and alone. They walk down a corridor together to find Laura. All three of them see Pyramid Head, and then he calls James Jimmy Boy and runs away forever and is never seen again. Sorry? Yeah, he's never seen again. He doesn't come back. At all. Eddie could have at least been a little companion for James for some part of the film, instead of just appearing and disappearing, like never to be seen again. This is just like Angela. He probably doesn't need to be in the film if he's not serving a similar purpose as he did in the game. It's a shame to see another character completely skipped over again. It's time to talk about Maria! I can't believe I'm saying it, but I think Maria might be the most well-represented character in this awful film. Played by the same actress who played Mary and Angela, because obviously they're all the same person. Maria's role is somewhat similar to what it is in the game, however, she has a much, much smaller influence. In Silent Hill 2, Maria is created from James's mind, as explored in the DLC Born from a Wish. She is basically a copy of Mary, except she has dyed hair, more provocative clothes, and a flirty personality. Maria is James's fantasy. She's what he wanted Mary to be like towards the end of her life. James is seemingly unaware that Maria isn't real, assisted by reminders from Maria such as, "I'm not your Mary." Maria is there to confuse James and distract him from the task at hand, and her death is a direct reflection of what James did to Mary. James gets to feel that guilt and regret all over again. So when Maria appears again in the cell, James is confused, as he would be. At the end of the game, James fights Maria posing as Mary, and in some endings you can actually leave with Maria. Maria in the film is once again another character who follows James around for a bit, gets hurt, and then disappears. James just enjoys like staring at Maria and not saying anything, while Maria asks questions about Mary. And it's actually Maria who brings up the fact that she looks like Mary, not James, which is odd. My biggest beef with Maria's character in the film is that they cut out the entire chase scene where Pyramid Head chases both of them down a corridor, and despite James's best efforts to save her, she's killed in front of him and James gets to live that feeling once more. And then we get one of the most jarring horror scenes of all time, where James rediscovers Maria behind a cell and she flits back and forth between hers and Mary's personality to convince James that she's real and she needs saving. The way that that scene was cut, I could talk for hours about it. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. The fact that this was removed angers me so much. It completely removes Maria's antagonist title and just turns her into yet another distraction for James. Maria meets her end when James summons Pyramid Head, and tells him to kill her by stabbing her right through the middle. She dies there and then, and at the end of the film, it's weird Vecna Mary that James sees, not Maria posing as Mary. Maria is a fantastic story antagonist. She's unreadable and unpredictable, and she brings out so much of James's character's personality. So the way she kind of ran around, got hurt, and then got killed felt very flat to me. If you played Born from a Wish, you'll know that Maria is an unkillable reflection, not copy, of Mary, who is only there to torture James. This just didn't come across for me in the film at all. We're at our last section of characters, guys. It's time to talk about the monsters and Pyramid Head. I have something positive to say. I actually really enjoyed the way the monsters looked in this film. Although heavily CGI'd, they looked like the monsters in the game, and I do know that they used a lot of practical effects too. My personal favorite was the lying figure. I really enjoyed how its arms were like stuck to its sides. I thought it was really freaky. I like it. Let's speedrun the monsters before we get to Pyramid Head. Creepers, they're bugs. I like the section where James was getting chased by the creepers. It kind of gave that sense of entrapment and it actually pushed him to where he needed to go, which I thought was a good way to move the story along. The lying figure, as I said, I really enjoyed their design and function. I do kind of wish they'd been used more, but yeah, they looked really good. Spider Mary. Not featured in the game, I just don't think this creature was needed. Considering how heavily Mary is already being represented in this film, I don't think we need a big booty spider woman to add to that. What's the significance? It could have been a mannequin, it could have been a nurse. Flesh lip. It's used once, but it's actually Scary Vecna Mary. It did give me a jump scare and the hands down the throat thing was very cool, but other than that, it's whatever. The nurses. These really impressed me, as they did in the Silent Hill 2006 film. They used dancers and you can really tell the difference that makes. Great costumes, great casting, great usage as well. I don't know why they're crumbly, but at this point I'm too afraid to ask. I also enjoy how one of them attacked Maria, which can happen in the game if you're not careful. Mannequins. Where are they? They don't feature at all in the film, unless you count whatever weird spider Mary formed from, but I'm not counting that. I want the legs, I want the legs. Moth Mary. This is who James encounters at the very end of the film. I actually really enjoyed the design of this. I thought it was quite beautiful with kind of Monster Mary in the middle and the bed sheets forming these big moth wings. I thought that was super cool. I'm still confused why Monster Mary looks that way and why she like absorbed James at the end, but I mean, I can't really say much at this point, can I? I can't, I got, you know. The only thing is I wish it was a fight at the end. That would have been so cool. Okay, it's time for the big guy, man of the year. It's Pyramid Head. Pyramid Head is only canon in Silent Hill 2 because he is a direct reflection of James's guilt and feelings. So I'm confused as to why he had less screen time in this film than he did in the other two films where he shouldn't even be there, really. We first encounter Pyramid Head when James meets Eddie and Laura and they're trying to convince her to come out of hiding. For some reason, all three of them can see Pyramid Head despite it being James's monster and an extension of himself. You could argue the point that I guess James can see Angela's monsters, but I feel like this is probably because Angela starts to trust James over time. Anyway, Pyramid Head tries to grab at James through the bars and we get a zoom into his big pyramid head and we see James's eye. Because as an audience, we need everything spoon-fed to us because we can't decipher anything by ourselves, apparently. So thank you for that. James runs away and Big PH tries to break through the bars and eventually gives up. We see Pyramid Head through the same bars, but he's not trying to break through them. We see him and he kind of walks away menacingly. We get to see his stature and that big old weapon. It's menacing, it's scary. Not everything has to be a scary, violent threat. You know what I mean? The next Pyramid Head scene in the game is a hard watch. James is hiding in a cupboard and you watch him watch Pyramid Head sexually abuse a mannequin. The mannequins in the game represent James's repressed sexual desires towards his wife, but at this point in the game, we're still seeing Pyramid Head as just another monster. Instead of this, in the film, Pyramid Head just absolutely fist slams freaky Spider Mary and then goes to drag her away before catching James in the cupboard. What comes next is possibly the funniest moment in the entire film. I can't. The shot goes back and forth between Pyramid Head and James as they're both totally freaking out, just in case we didn't know already that they are the same person. It's just so funny to me to see such a menacing character grab his big metal head and just start screaming like, and then you don't really see him again until much later when something incredibly goofy happens again. James and a very injured Maria are walking through a corridor of paintings of Mary. Don't even ask. James suddenly decides it's Maria's time and summons Pyramid Head through his crazy mind powers that he suddenly has. Pyramid Head kills Maria in a similar way he does to the game, but this time it's totally James's conscious decision to do so. Sorry, the line "goodbye Maria" is still so funny to me. I'll never recover from that, genuinely. Then he's gone. Yep, he's gone. You don't see him again. You don't see him again. I'm taking deep breaths, y'all. I'm taking deep breaths. In Silent Hill 2, you spend the game discovering more about James through iconic characters such as Pyramid Head, who stalks him loomingly throughout the game to remind him of his guilty actions. When James fights two of them in the game, the only way to win the fight is by James accepting what he's done and letting the monsters finish themselves. So seeing Pyramid Head so obviously portrayed as not an extension of James, but just as like being James with the eye zooms and the fact he literally painted a big pyramid on his own self-portrait, it just feels watered down and lazy to me. Let me use my deceptive skills, please! Pyramid Head is such a great character, and even though he's not in the game that much more than the film, I feel like there could have been more of him, especially with like the fan demand for him also. Okay, we've literally been through every single character, and we've covered most of the plot already. In this next part, we'll compare the plot of the film to the game to see how much better the film could have handled the absolutely stunning story of Silent Hill 2. Thank you for sticking around. Take a break, have a snack, get a drink. It's time to move on to the plot. So the plot, let's start at the very beginning. I want to start this off by saying I know that squeezing a 20-hour game into a 1 hour 40 film is pretty impossible, but I still think there are some things that were missed that could have been included. I've split the plot up into chapters to make this easier to digest. We have the setup, we have chapter 1, which is the apartments, we have chapter 2, which is the hospital, we have chapter 3, which is the prison, and we have chapter 4, which is the hotel, and then we'll discuss the ending. Whew. In Silent Hill 2, the game starts with James waking up in Silent Hill, and you're both confused as to why you're there. It's a similar setup in the film, although we have the flashback intro, which is fine, it gives us some context, even if it is mischaracterized. They both walk through some trees and meet Angela, although the conversations are very different. Game James's is more of a warning, and Film James's is more about Angela's strange behaviour. Chapter 1. The apartment. In some way or another, both Jameses end up at the apartments first. Obviously in the game, James only holidayed in Silent Hill, so he has to walk around, solve some puzzles, fight some monsters, figure stuff out and the like. Film James used to live there and knows exactly where to go. That's fine. I do think it would have been nice to have some sort of reference to a puzzle or part of the apartments in the film, just as a nod to the game players, but it's whatever. Both meet Eddie, both are confused, both meet Pyramid Head, although Film James seems to pass out and wake up somewhere else, and Game James just carries on with his day. The film follows the game's plot pretty religiously at the beginning. You know, we meet Angela, we meet Laura, we meet Maria. I mean, it's all totally different interactions, as we've discussed. But it's still, you know, it's pretty accurate. The film completely skips a pretty important fight with Pyramid Head and a pretty world-building conversation with Laura and Eddie, but we move, and in the film, we move straight on to Chapter 2, the hospital. Ooh. Now, the major difference in the hospital section is that instead of Maria being a bit hungover and a little bit unwell in the game, she is like fatally wounded. And instead of caring like Game James does, Film James just kind of smacks a bandage on her and leaves her there. Despite having doubts about Maria, James still really cares about her and wants her to be safe. And checking on her in that room in the hospital actually can even affect your ending. This is totally missed out in the film. James seems to hate Maria for some reason. We miss another Pyramid Head interaction, Laura's next interaction is turned to make her seem evil, and then James is fed some bony hands and is snapped back to reality. The only section of the Nightmare Hotel part of the game that actually carries across to the film is the chase where Maria and James are heading for the elevator. But instead of Pyramid Head, it's the nurses. And yeah, I really like the nurses a lot, but it's another Pyramid Head interaction that's lost. I sound like Pyramid Head's biggest fan. I just think he's like an important part of the story and he's missed. We wouldn't need all of these obvious signals about who Pyramid Head is if he was just featured a little bit more. Chapter 3, Prison. What am I doing? In Silent Hill 2, after a long walk through the streets and through the park, which admittedly would not make great film watchings, we arrive at the Historical Society and eventually Toluca Prison. I totally understand budget limitations and location scouting is tricky, but I feel like including the prison would have improved the ending so much more. So much happens in the prison, including the fight with Eddie where James gets a little deja vu after killing him, and that absolutely iconic speech from Maria. They all happen in the prison and are just missed out of the film. Both of these events influenced James's psyche so heavily, and including them in the film would have meant less explaining to do when James is suddenly back in the real world for a little bit. Even the prison itself is a representation of James's craving to be brought to justice and found guilty. I do, however, agree that the boat section was rightfully missed. Chapter 4, the hotel. Now, in the game, the hotel is Mary and James's special place, so reaching it finally after all that time is such an achievement, even though you know the fight isn't quite over yet. But in the film, I assumed from the letter that their apartment was their place, because it just said, to our place, which you'd assume that's what you call somewhere you live, right? So with James going there first, it feels like he has like no direction for the rest of the film. He just kind of gets chased from location to location and he ends up in the right place. Where is their place actually? Like where is it? It's never really explained very well. A huge moment in the game happens where James watches a VHS tape that he found and he finally realizes he killed Mary. He admits this to Laura, who is her own independent character in the game, and she beats him up and runs away. rightfully. The version of this in the film is Laura pulls some creepy exorcist moves onto a couch, basically explains the whole "we are all Mary" thing, and just sends him on his way. And then instead of seeing Angela's really emotional speech in the Hall of Flames, James instead gets sucked into the room where you fight Abstract Daddy. But they don't fight, he just touches her face and becomes Hero of the Year. Oh, also everything is still on fire. For some reason. Like, it makes sense for Angela's trauma, but she's not Angela, she's Mary. Like, what's the significance? The film completely swerves the Pyramid Duo fight, where Pyramid Head is finally defeated after James admits his guilt. The film also swerves the final interaction with Maria, because in the game she's posing as Mary. In the film, it's just Mary. It's just Mary. James doesn't fight Mary in the film, he's just kind of absorbed and gets all flashbacky and crazy. Let's talk about the ending! The film ends as it began, after James has taken Mary's body and drives into Toluca Lake. I kind of wish they just left it there, just like the in-water ending of the game, because it's so jarring and you kind of get to see what James deserved this whole time. Or should he be made to suffer again? It seems like the film has taken an idea from the time loop theory and has decided to launch James back into consciousness so he can do it all again. Yay! I'll only refer to the in-water ending of the game because that's the one the film references. I like this ending a lot. I like this ending. It's the ending I got when I played it for the first time. I feel like it provides that closure after playing for so long. What's missing in the film is the letter. There's just something about sitting in the silence of being underwater and having to listen to James's wife, who he loved so much, talk about how disgusting she felt and how bad she feels for him. It's absolutely heartbreaking and emotional in both the original and the remake, and I can't believe it was just not used at all. It wasn't only not used, it wasn't even referenced once. The letter that Film James gets is nothing even similar. I'm assuming this is because Mary was such a prominent component of the film that there wasn't really anything else to learn about her. And I mean, James wasn't even with her for the months leading up to her death, so like, who knows how Mary was feeling? I don't think Mary even knew how she was feeling. Overall, I understand that films have to make a lot of cuts, especially in video game adaptations, and you can't possibly fit every puzzle, every battle, every conversation into a film. But I feel like there's so many things that just make Silent Hill 2 what it is that were either misused or just missed. The characters feel empty, the story is all over the place. The opportunity for some fights, some more dialogue, some references was there, and they just missed it. Even without the addition of more dialogue, so much of this game is communicated through symbols and actions that was just missed too. And my main criticism, James didn't put his hand in any holes. Not one. Also, why didn't he have a weapon like the entire time? Oh well. I do want to talk a little bit about the filmography. I have a degree in this realm, I have to, okay? Overall, I think the film looked good. As I said, I was really impressed with the monsters, even though I'm skeptical of a few. I'm looking at you, Spider-Mary. Yeah. It's notoriously difficult to film in the dark, and a lot of Silent Hill is in the dark, so the fact that they could have James' flashlight on and still light his face well, I'm impressed. Like, it's hard to do. There are some points, particularly when James first arrives in Silent Hill, where he is so painfully in focus that the background looks like it's straight out of a PS2 game, which is strange because I know they used a lot of practical sets and stuff, so I don't know how that happened. I'm such a sucker for practical effects and on-location shooting. It just always looks better. The characters look good, with maybe the exception of Maria with that interesting wig. Maria was never meant to look perfect. I mean, she canonically works in a strip club, so. And I have to bring the flashback beard into this again. I'm sorry, I can't stop thinking about it. Even though I wasn't really keen on the cult stuff, I think the makeup and costuming was really cool in that section as well. It's a decent looking film. You know, the scary parts look scary, the flashbacky parts look flashbacky. The real issues just lie in the plot and the characterization. In terms of faithfulness to the game, it just isn't. Even though it has the same characters and places, it's just a completely different story. It's not the story of Silent Hill 2. Now you know how I feel about it, but how did the public receive this? It's currently sitting at a stinky 19% on Rotten Tomatoes with a 29% audience score. IGN gives it 5 out of 10. Its opening weekend earned it $19.3 million, which doesn't quite reach their budget of $23 million. So I'm not the only one who had issues with it. At the end of the day, I'm just a bit disappointed that such a staple of game horror has been butchered so badly. I didn't even mind the 2006 Silent Hill film, so I'm sad that it didn't even reach that kind of standard. But I can't say that I didn't have fun watching it. I giggled the whole way through, I cringed at points, and I don't regret going to watch it. Right, you know how I feel about Return to Silent Hill. Have you seen this film? What did you think? I really want to hear the opinion of someone who hasn't played any of the games, so if that's you, make sure to leave a comment. Thank you so much for sticking with me through this big, long video. I really enjoyed writing it and I would love to do stuff like this again. I wasn't even going to make this video, but I had so much to say that I was like, no, I have to. I hope you enjoyed it, and I really love to know if you share the same opinions as me. Did you love the film? If so, what did you like about it? I actually finished streaming this game a week before the film came out, which was just perfect timing. If you are interested in watching my live streams, I stream on Twitch 3 times a week, so go and check me out over there if you'd like. Here are all of my socials if you'd like to follow me. They'll also be linked in the description. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss my next video. And I just want to say a big thank you again. I'm so happy if you stuck with me till the end. You're a real one. Let me know if you'd like more content like this. I would love to make it. And I will see you in the next one. Bye. Maria out.